It is one of the biggest household expenses for American families. According to new numbers from the U.S. Department of Energy, the average U.S. family spends at least $2,000 a year on utilities, with heating and cooling accounting for more than half of that bill. Gas, another major expense. In 2018, the average American spent just over $2,100 on gas and motor oil. That's up $140 from the year before. According to personal website Wallet Hub, we use less energy than most here in Washington State. We're the 15th most energy efficient state, partly because we have many more hybrid and electric cars than the national average. New York, Rhode Island, and Utah, the most energy efficient states. South Carolina ranks at the bottom as the least energy efficient state. And speaking of, October is Energy Awareness Month. Ellen Taylor was recruited by some local professionals to help us figure out how to save some money on our energy bill. Hi there.
Hey, so I like to think that I recruited them to help us because Lord knows I don't know what I'm doing. So I've got Aaron here. He's the professional at Window World. And we're giving you let's go back to 7th grade science, right? Sure. We're going to do an example here. So I've got this freezer spray. Pretend this is your window outside of your home. We're going to freeze this and make sure that it gets super nice and cold. Although these temperatures don't get that cold here in the Northwest, we want to show you that on the outside it's how much? Oh, here we go. Come around this way, Dante. Here we go. We got 23, 22 degrees, 30 degrees, 28 degrees, which, again, super cold on the outside. But, Aaron, why don't we go on the inside? Sure. And you can show us what that looks like, what that temperature is like on the inside. So, again, the idea is that, obviously, windows will keep the cold out. But now from the inside, what's that temperature? You got a reading for us?
65.8, 66.
Let me see it. 66 degrees. Now, if my windows, Aaron, aren't keeping the cold out and the warm in, what are some tips and tricks in order for me to make sure that we do that?
Well, so there are a couple things that you can do. And I guess first and foremost, it would depend on whether you have older windows or whether you have newer windows.
Okay, let's go with both scenarios. If I got an older window, is there something I can do before I have to replace the whole thing?
That is a little bit difficult.
Okay.
If the windows are older, let's say they're old aluminum frame windows from the 1970s.
Sure.
There's very limited options for you to make them dramatically more energy efficient.
Okay.
One thing that you could possibly do is attempt to seal up around the windows, but one of the problems with older windows is that they tend to not close and actually seal very well.
Got it.
A lot of times they've sagged or they've shifted and they're not really square anymore, so they don't actually close and seal up all the way.
Which, in that case, how much money do you think that we're wasting each year if we don't invest in, let's say, those new windows?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult to measure a lot of times.
Right.
But if you could imagine, let's say you had a window that doesn't fully shut, where if you were to look around the edges here, you might be able to see a little daylight through.
Sure.
That's functionally the same thing as having a hole in the side of your house.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you were to add up the cumulative area of that crack, it might be a hole the size of a tennis ball.
Right.
And you certainly wouldn't put that in the side of your house because you can imagine what kind of cold air would seep through.
So obviously, I mean, with it being energy awareness, saving, I don't really exactly know what it is, but what I do know is that we want to save money, we want to save energy, of course, too. As I'm touching this freezer spray to my hands, don't give me the toys.
It is okay.
Don't give me the toys.
It won't hurt you.
But I know that coming up later this morning, we're going to talk about some other ways that you can save money too. So if I do have new windows, but I'm noticing that that's happening real quickly, what are some quick fixes if I'm noticing that even my new windows aren't keeping the cold out and the warm in?
Well, it really shouldn't happen with newer windows.
Okay.
All windows, not just the windows that we make here at Window World, but really all newer windows would be able to duplicate this demonstration if they're double or triple pane windows.
So again,
this is not any sort of unique technology that we have. It's just across the board for any modern window system.
Right.
So that really shouldn't be something that's happening if you have newer windows if they're installed correctly.
Got it. And it's always nice to know that, we can come and spend the morning here. Bye, Aaron. Thanks for your time. That we can come in here and do 7th grade projects like this where let's just see how cold this got. They gave me a good 41 degrees, and on the inside, like we saw earlier, still a balmy 68 degrees. So just a couple of tips and tricks. Something as easy as this can show you whether or not your windows are working the way that they need to. And again, coming up this hour, or the rest of this morning, Aaron's going to be with us to show us other ways that we might be wasting money and energy and how to fix those problems. But that is coming up later this morning. But for right now, Bill, going to send it back on over to you.
Great little tool you got there, Ellen. Thanks. Hey, you know what? The Sounders are heating up.